Welcome to the Farming on Purpose podcast, a podcast for farmers and ranchers ready to shift for a stronger future. Today's challenges in agriculture are new, but the grit and determination required to be successful are not. On the Farming on Purpose podcast, you'll hear how producers of all sizes and practices are moving mountains for things they believe in, all in the name of an industry that keeps growing and innovating for a stronger food system and stronger farm families. I'm your host, Lexi Wright, and I'm excited to discuss where producers are finding success, challenging the status quo, striving for better, and keeping our heritage alive, all while producing the food we depend on.
Welcome back to Farming on Purpose. Thank you guys for coming back again for another week. We have a great guest today. Her name is Brenna Beard, and I'm really excited to share her story with you. Brenna is a beginning farmer and has a great story to share of kind of what that journey has looked like for her. So Brenna, do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us more about who you are, how you got to this point, and what's going on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Lexi. So my name's Brenna Beard. I am from central-ish Indiana. Grew up on the farm. I have a very unique and probably different story than most, a little unconventional, if you will, but growing up, grew up on the farm, but also, sometimes in life, your parents don't work out, right? And so I actually moved away from the farm and then, was still heavily involved when I went to go see my dad and whatnot, but grew up and was heavily involved in showing livestock, had a huge passion for that and just helping out and being on the farm. I always loved it. I have several siblings. Older brothers, we just were hooligans on the farm. But graduated from high school thinking my whole life I wanted to be a nurse and realized that was not for me. And so then I went to Purdue and I studied ag sales and marketing, which is essentially an ag business degree, and ended up kind of in the seed sales side of the world and had an internship there, a couple internships before that. But that really opened the door to, the eyes of what the ag industry as a whole, the opportunities were. So then I took an opportunity out in North Dakota for about 3 years, selling seed as a Pioneer territory manager. So I oversaw a group of Pioneer sales reps. Still enjoy talking to those guys when I get a chance. But nothing beats being back close to home. So I had an opportunity with my company, Corteva Agriscience, to move back and jump in both feet, not knowing much about the crop protection side of the business. So I have been back closer to home since 2020. I moved back in the heat of COVID, and have enjoyed my role ever since, but just now on my third season of farming. So there was a little bit of, I can't farm if I live in North Dakota and I have a full-time job and I need a full-time job for the farm, for my farm to be successful. So, in my third season of farming, just wrapped up. We just got some snow today, so I have a few more things left to do here this fall, but looking forward to year 4.
That is exciting. We are not near snow weather here yet. I'm in Kansas, so hearing you say that, I'm just like, oh, burr. That feels a little bit. But well, cool. When you kind of realized that nursing wasn't for you, and you wanted to pursue something in ag, what was it that you were looking for, or kind of what pushed you in that direction at that point?
So actually, like I said, I wanted to be a nurse my whole life. My mom is a nurse. She's been a nurse for her whole career. My younger sister is now a nurse. So it was just, one of those things I thought would happen. I did a vocational class in high school where I had clinical experience, and I soon realized that that was not cut out for me. Um, I saw a couple gruesome, what I would call gruesome surgeries, and just realized it really wasn't for me. So then I am not a quitter. So then I'm like, well, maybe nursing isn't for me, but I still like the medical field. So I actually, my senior year of high school, did an internship at a dentist's office, and teeth extractions aren't my thing either. So I had already applied to Purdue at that point, and I just went undecided because I really was trying to figure out, what do I want to do with my life, which is kind of an uneasy feeling, when everyone else you're graduating with, they know exactly what they want to do. And you're kind of like, well, what I thought I wanted to do is not at all what I want to do. So I went in undecided, and actually at Purdue, like probably several universities, if you go in undecided, there's a couple classes that they have you take where you kind of take these tests on what would be a good fit for you based off personality traits and how just kind of how you operate. And I just kept receiving things that said something about sales. And so then that's kind of how I jumped into thinking I wanted to go in that route. And I always loved the farm. I love showing livestock, and every chance I could, like I would go home on the weekends to spend time with family on the farm and whatnot. But I was like, maybe, animal pharmaceutical sales would be something that I'd be interested in. So I actually decided my major as animal science ag business at first. And I had that for about a semester, and went to the career fair, and I just wasn't really aligning with, a lot of those positions were research based. And if anyone knows me, I'm a yapper in a way. I love to talk. I love to get to know people. So, those weren't really a great fit in my eyes. So I wanted to do something a little bit more broad agriculture wise. So that's where I landed on ag sales and marketing. And, I actually took a study abroad trip, and that was a wonderful experience. But getting an internship after a study abroad Maymester sometimes is a challenge. So I actually just soil sampled for a company in between my sophomore and junior year. And then in between my junior and senior year, I got an internship selling seed. So that's kind of how I jumped into that. And I always thought that my brothers would come back to the farm and help my dad, because that's kind of just the natural progression. I feel like if you have older brothers, your dad just kind of assumes your oldest brother is going to take over the farm, or your second oldest brother. And, it just didn't happen like that. And I really never thought I had an opportunity to join my dad or, start farming. So, once I kind of figured out maybe that's not what they were looking to do, I made my intentions very clear that I wanted to come back. I really wanted to do this thing and do it how I saw as the right way. Of course, between your dad and you're always sometimes thinking the right way is a little bit different. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And it's been going pretty well ever since.
Well, it sounds like you had a lot of unique experiences in ag kind of leading up to your return to the farm, like between seed sales and soil sampling. And like, that's just a pretty good breadth of experience that you could bring back with you then. So when you came back, or you decided that, there maybe was a place for you there, what was that conversation in your family like? What did that look like as you kind of discussed what that could be?
Yeah. So my dad and I have a very unique relationship of just, we say what we want to say, no holding back. And so maybe it was more of a me telling him I'm coming back than a discussion. So, I just said, Dad, like, I really would like to get involved on the farm and start farming on my own and have stake in the game. And so I told him that, and, he probably had to think about it a little bit, but at the same time, he was excited that I wanted to get started, and allowed me an opportunity to have some acres just getting started too. So that was huge he had to sacrifice a little bit so I could get started on my own.
Yeah. It's always interesting to hear how that works. Like when a family member comes back to the farm of, how they make that whole transition work. So your dad had some acreage that he was able to let you get started on. That's how you guys managed that?
Yeah. So, our family's been farming for 200 years. So we are blessed to have some unique opportunities. And so, I just started with 35 acres my first year, and they were not in the same field. I had a 17-acre patch over here and an 18-acre patch over here. So did he give me probably the lowest quality of ground? Maybe, perhaps, but it's been fun, like learning as I go, obviously, just what I can do to improve that ground and improve year after year too.
Yeah, got to start somewhere. So corn on that ground then?
Yeah, so I started with corn my first year. So I did corn only my first year on both of those pieces. And then into my second year is when I started a corn and soybean rotation. And I went from 35 acres to 75 acres my second year. So it was nice to be able to have some flexibility and change and learn how to grow a corn crop and how to learn how to grow a soybean crop for the first time. Of course, I had experience because of my full-time job in management practices and whatnot. And then also, Dad's 2 cents on things too.
Yeah, that's good to have. So you said that you kind of doubled your acres there that second year. Has that been just something you were able to do and work out with your dad to kind of slowly increase, or how has that worked for you guys? Do you have a official transition plan in place, or what are the next steps for you?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of behind the scenes things too, not just Dad, kind of the whole family. So I had to talk with other family members and express my intentions of what I'm trying to do with the farm. I think that's honestly the best thing that I would advise anyone getting started is, if you do have the opportunity with family, just make your intentions very clear of what your vision is and what you want to do with it. So I think I did that and went about it the right way to where those family members took me seriously and were willing to take a chance on me. So I am very thankful that they, believed in me, but I had to make my intentions just super clear on what I wanted to do and how it was going to work with me having a full-time job and just doing it on the side, because in a lot of ways that's kind of unheard of for people to do in traditional sense. Yeah.
It's always like an intricate web of people's emotions and what everybody wants or thinks should happen when it's family ground involved. And so it's something you had to continue to navigate and plan for.
Yeah, I think it's something I gotta navigate just about every day. Well, I feel like that's everybody though. Just we have a big family, and so just navigating that and just making sure I'm very clear again on what I want to do, and I've definitely been assertive on what I want, but I also have to realize, a lot of change all at once is not palatable to some people like it is maybe for me, because I'm always just thinking of what I can do next, I guess.
Hey there, it's Lexi, and I am sliding into this podcast episode with an opportunity for those who are interested in it. The last time that you sat down to plan your marketing, do you know when it was? Was it hard? Were you confused? Did you feel like you actually should be working on your business instead of trying to make social media posts or write emails or design ads? If that's you, I created a system to develop a full year's marketing strategy and a plan to implement it in 8 hours or less. Yes, really, 8 hours, one day. Sit down, plan all of your marketing for the entire year, and actually have the things in place so you can implement it, not just a really pretty outline on a calendar. So you'll walk away with a roadmap for your marketing activities for the next 12 months, confidence in knowing exactly what to do and when to do it, and more time to focus on actually running your business instead of worrying about your marketing. So if you are tired of just winging it or getting stressed out by trying to remember to do your marketing, check out this offer. You can find out when it's ready at farmingonpurpose.com/plan. farmingonpurpose.com/plan. I'd love to see you there.
Well, it's an exciting opportunity that you've got to be able to come back and farm. What are some of the things that you have enjoyed the most about being back and getting started on your farming journey?
Some of the most exciting things have been, I did purchase my first piece of family farm ground. So I was really excited, really proud. That's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So kind of wrapping that all up, but kind of the anticipation of it happening. But it's been fun to just kind of start to really see how I want to do things. Your family, when you're in a family farm, there's always opinions and, dads do things a certain way. And I think it's just been fun figuring out what I want to do for each crop. Those decisions, there's a lot that goes into making decisions on the farm. And so it's been really exciting just working with like my local suppliers too, kind of brainstorming ways that I can improve that maybe my dad hadn't thought about. So I really like that, to where I can start to maybe implement some things and he can see where, I'm having success. And I think that just sense of, hey, Dad, maybe we could do things this way. It's exciting, but it's also, sometimes a big stressor also. But I would say that's probably been one of the most exciting things. And just the thought of really what I envision for the farm. I get really excited about that. I can't get ahead of myself. But it's exciting to watch that all come to fruition. I've only been doing this 3 years now, but I think back to my first year and I wouldn't have imagined at year 3 I would be where I'm at. So it's fun to look back, but it's also really fun and exciting to kind of look ahead to see, what the future potentially could look like with it too. So yeah. What about you? What about your farming? I know that you farm as well as have a full-time job. What's been the exciting part for you?
Well, I can first off tell you that you are good at sales because you're on an interview asking questions. Oh, I love it. By the way, congratulations on the purchase of your farm ground. That's a really exciting milestone and awesome. I think that potential that you talked about of the future is like what keeps all farmers and ranchers going. It's like, oh, okay, getting through this hard stuff in the future, the potential of this is just going to be really good. So it keeps us that hope, I think, it keeps us all going. But exciting things for us, I think, when we moved here to the farm that we're at now, longtime listeners know that we came to my husband's family farm and purchased it from his grandma. And that allowed us to expand in a way that we'd been trying to for a really long time. I say really long, like it felt really long. It was like probably 6 years that we were actively trying to expand more ground, and to get more cows was just so rewarding for us. Like to see that final ability to be able to grow and have more things that we can make happen has been really good. And we're still in the process of it. It's, again, the potential. You keep going and working towards it, but it's been good. It's been good.
The learning process is like so much part of the fun too, I think, as you kind of grow and evolve, just everything you learn over time. It's kind of fun to look back and see.
It is. It really is. Sometimes I feel like it can be something you get bogged down in the day-to-day, and you don't see how far you've come. So taking time to recognize that is so important. But, well, you said that you've been trying some new things and you're excited to try a lot of new things. What are some of the things that you have tried so far? I love to give the nitty-gritty specifics of kind of what's been some of those first changes that you made after getting started.
I would say my dad has just been very do the basics. And although I am 100% behind doing the basics and doing the basics right, I think some of those added things that you can bring to the farm can sometimes take you a little bit, just that next step further. So trying some different programs, I would say for me, my profession full time is ag chemistry sales. So, whether that's trying fungicide on beans, that I don't think he's ever done that. And, of course, fungicide on corn and doing some of those different things that are easier and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel to do. Because I am pretty limited on, I don't own a single piece of equipment. So that's an interesting thing as well. I'm trying to navigate, where I go and with the ag economy now, what it is. Maybe it'll be a little bit longer, but it's worked out for me to work with my dad, but also some neighboring farmers on some custom, whether it's custom application or custom spraying or harvesting. I think utilizing those things a little bit differently is, I know I make my dad's head spin in doing it, but for me, some of that has really paid off. So just looking at things a little bit differently. I'm very data driven on some of those things. So I do like to nerd out and look at different trials and see what kind of trial opportunities I can do on my stuff, which we are pretty old school in the equipment that we run. So some of those things are a little bit more challenging, but that's one thing I'm excited to take another look at, how I could improve in years to come. But I would say introducing some of those value added products to the farm that are data proven has been a couple of the things that I've done a little bit differently, I would say.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think it can be really scary to try some of those things for the first time. Luckily, you know the data behind them, being involved in the field. But yeah, it's when you actually put that input to the test, I think it can feel like, oh gosh, I hope this pays off. So that's awesome. You're getting to try some of those things and see what works. And so I
yeah, I think, I don't want to, again, reinvent the wheel, but if you can take a look at something new on a couple of your acres before you dive all in, I think is great. If you, one, have the patience to do a trial. Sometimes those take a little bit of time and effort and can be tedious, but I think they paid off for me and seeing what works on my farms. And that's the beauty in farming is my operation looks totally different than someone else's. And what works for me might not work for someone else. So it's been really fun to just test out new things. And my eyes are set on how we can improve just planting and, starting from planting and taking it through harvest. I think the most important thing we do is really getting that ground prepped and ready and then get a good emergence. So that's kind of what my eyes are set on next to try and improve, but stay tuned.
Yeah, that's good. That's that'll be something fun to watch on your social media and see how it goes as you get closer to that. So that's some of the cool things you're doing and excited to try. What are some of the things in your first 3 years that have been maybe learning opportunities or things that you wish you maybe had done different?
Well, I would definitely say that grain marketing is something that every beginning farmer and experienced farmer would say they would do differently. So yeah, I think just continuing to learn about grain marketing is an area to improve always. But I really tried to, take a look at different contracts that I could do and working with my grain buyers, getting their opinions on things. That's one thing I am not afraid to ask stupid questions because somebody else is probably thinking it, but not asking it. And I would just rather ask the question. I have a lot to learn and I'm not afraid to say that. I work full time in the ag industry, but there's specialty areas that I work in, not, a master of everything, I wouldn't say. So I have a lot to learn there. And I think that's an area where usually has the biggest return is grain marketing. If you can really nail that down to it's more of an art than a science, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. Grain marketing is I don't know how you ever do it and don't look back and think, oh, there was definitely room for improvement. But I guess that's probably just the nature of the game. Yeah, it's hard to sell on the best peak day every time. It just doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. But I think too, a learning in that is I can't get buyer's remorse. I can't, look back on what I did yesterday and today grain price could be higher. You just got to make that decision in the moment and roll with it. And because at the time you thought it was a good decision. So I think that's one thing too. Probably not just me, but a lot of farmers probably get a little wrapped up in, dang it, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that, or waited till now. So I try not to beat myself up over, losing a couple cents. But in the long run, that's definitely an area that I would love to continue learning about for sure.
I agree. Me too. I can't remember if it was a guest I had on the podcast or if it was maybe another podcast I was listening to. But it was a gentleman who had advice for grain marketing. And he just said, you need to know what your break even is and either contract above that and then move forward and walk away knowing that you farmed for a profit that year. Or you need to make sure that you know your break even. So when you go to sell, at what point you need to be ready to pull the trigger and not always be waiting for that next price to come in. But
yeah, and I would say
easier said than done.
Yeah, it is easier said than done. I probably know my break even down to the penny, but still I want to take advantage when I see an opportunity. So but that is great advice though, of just I would advise anybody who's just getting started or, experienced. There's a lot of people that probably don't really know what their break even is when they're making some of those decisions. And that just makes me too anxious.
I agree. It makes me anxious too. It's one of those things I think that's really important to talk about for beginning farmers, though, because they don't have any data to base their break even on. It's like, well, I had to purchase this, or, there's a lot of unexpected. So it's like they're trying to figure their break even on the wrong end of the season. And that's just a part of being a beginning farmer that we have to deal with, I guess. But
So some added stress thinking about a lot. What, some years you're going to make more money than other years. And I think as long as you don't outpace your budget, then you'll end up being just fine in most years. It's what I've learned so far. Not an expert yet. I just try to make a good plan from start to finish on what I want to spend on things. There's going to be things that are unexpected that you've got to account for. But I think all in all, if you kind of just set out a good plan and follow the plan, you'll end up just fine.
Does your business accept online payments, credit cards, or bank transfers? You're going to want to know about a tool called Thrivecart. I've been using this tool on my own website and on clients' websites for years and have been so happy with it. Thrivecart is a software tool you can use to design online checkouts with every option you can dream up. You can sell physical and digital products, connect to loads of other softwares you use for your website, accept payments, email marketing, and more. This is the most powerful tool that I use and the lowest cost one for my business. I recommend it for anyone who accepts online payments, who wants to increase their revenue or average order value on any type of product that you sell. In my show notes, you can find an affiliate link that I have for Thrivecart that gets you a great deal on a one-time payment, no subscription, and also allows me to earn affiliate income from this tool that I really enjoy and recommend. If you have any questions about how Thrivecart could work for your business, feel free to shoot me an email and I'd be happy to chat with you about it. Now, back to the show.
Well, I think the plan is something that's probably pretty important for you, where you're juggling multiple responsibilities, where you're working full time, you're farming part time. How do you balance that day to day? Is that something that's been challenging to take on?
Yeah, it's definitely added work. It's added hours in the evening and on the weekends. It's not unmanageable because, again, I don't farm all that much. But I have to set out my week, and it can be a struggle because both my full-time job and the farm, a lot of that is weather dependent. So that has a lot to do with how I set my plans for the week. But a lot of times I will just come home from work, get all my work things done, and then I live 45, 50 minutes from the farm. So that's kind of a unique challenge as well. So I try to make every minute count when I'm out there if I'm going to go out to the farm that day, then it has to be worthwhile for my time and effort. So I don't go to the farm every single day. Or every single weekend. But when I do, I really try to put my nose to the ground and get a lot done. Is kind of how I manage it. It's probably different for everyone. I mean, how have you been able to manage your time with that?
Oh, it's total chaos every day. But full transparency there. Those decisions of like, how do you manage your time, I think are so important for farmers because, like you said, there is a lot of things that depend on the weather. And so figuring out how to optimize your time and then be able to adjust quickly is important. Otherwise, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't happen, unfortunately. But
a lot of the stuff that doesn't happen is laundry and dinner. So that's been the challenge sometimes, is just, oh my gosh, I just worked all day long. I need a quick bite to eat. And oh yeah, I forgot to do some laundry. So just simple things like that you wouldn't even think about. But when you're running from A to B, I'm like, I eat a lot of gas station food.
Yeah. Figuring out how to optimize that stuff is kind of like my nemesis.
Yeah.
Where it's just always been something that I've been wanting to do better. It's like, oh, I can cram everything that I need to do into the day and it's all going to go perfectly and there's not going to be any hiccups at all. When really I've planned like a 45-hour day. It's like, it's just completely unrealistic. But yeah, I think that it makes a huge difference though, how you figure out your day-to-day schedule and how you feel about what you're doing and your job and your responsibilities. It really impacts that.
Yeah. And I would say during spring and fall, I do use some of my vacation time from my full-time job, because there's days where you just got to get a lot done. You see that window of opportunity to plant or to get stuff harvested. So I do use some of my vacation time for farming. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's how it works sometimes.
I think every farmer that has a job is in the same boat as you. It's kind of hard not to.
Yeah. Yeah. So I took some time off this fall luckily, it all kind of worked out perfect to take time off and get my crop out. And of course, I've got to navigate my schedule with my custom harvest guys. So that's different as well because it's not even my dad at that point. It's a whole set of other people. So I've got to kind of coordinate with them to make sure that we're kind of on the same track of maybe when they'll get to my field. Because I do like to be out there, whether I'm helping out. I got to hop in the grain cart with my custom guys here this fall. So it's kind of cool in that respect too, because there's some equipment that dad just doesn't have, and we do have to do custom harvest. So it's nice that those guys want to see me succeed and want to see me learn as well. So I hopped in the grain cart and that's what I did on my fields. But yeah, had to coordinate, hey, we think we're going to get to your field tomorrow. I'm like, oh shoot. Okay. Let me try and figure that out.
It may feel stressful in the moment, but yeah, usually right, wrong, or indifferent, it does work out one way or another. Oh, well, that's really awesome that you're getting to make those management decisions and kind of see what works for you. As you look forward to what you're doing on the farm, what are some of the goals that you have or the things that you want to see happen? I think it's always interesting when folks come on the podcast because obviously the podcast is called Farming on Purpose. I feel like everybody has this like unique sense of purpose in where they're going with their farm. Something that drives them to do it because it is a lot of work. So what are some of the things that you're working towards?
I feel like, and I've said it before, farming's just kind of in your blood, right? You grow up with it and it's a way of life. It's not just a job or a career. It truly is a way of life. And so for me, my purpose with it all is I hope that I'm lucky enough to have children one day and they're able to have children one day. And it's just a preserved way of life, and maybe they won't have any interest in the farm at all. But I think it's important for me that I try to protect the legacy that was passed down from the generations before me. So my goal is to see my family farm still succeed and transition into the future. We're a small family farm, and I think a lot of small farmers get discouraged because they're not maybe growing at the pace of some others. But I would say not everyone has to farm everything, as long as you're making a profit, I think you're doing just fine. So what I see is just, continuing the family farm. I would love to be able to one day, hire my brothers. I know it sounds weird, but my brother, one of my older brothers, is a mechanic, so he'd be my first person I hire officially. But it would be great to expand and just kind of rebuild. We're kind of in a rebuild phase, I would say, with our family operation and just the things that have happened over time. So, one of my big things here for the foreseeable future is to either repair some grain bins or start to think about what I can do to, do we start 100% fresh? Do we repair grain bins? But that all has to make sense financially. But that would be one of the things that I kind of have on the forefront of my mind, is just what is going to help me gain a profit to where I can do everything I want to do, but what is going to help me gain a profit the quickest? And I feel that would be an area where my dad and I both could benefit from that too. And we've both been in agreement of what we want to do there and what we need to do there. So a lot of cleaning up around the farm, thinking about just some ways we can repair grain bins is on the forefront of my mind. But yeah, long story short, that's kind of my goal is to just keep the family farm going. I love my full-time job. I enjoy it 1,000%. But I also enjoy the farm. And so, my goal is to just make sure that both are operating well and I'm able to do those things well and, help my dad out as much as I can too on his stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be exciting to watch and tag along on social media as you work towards those goals and see what kind of things you can accomplish. If you could go back, kind of just thinking about your journey on the farm the past 3 years, if you could tell yourself something to help you through the past 3 years of working through things, what would you tell yourself?
Have faith. I put my full faith in God, and I feel like I have done a good job in that. And I think that's gotten me where I am today. But I would just say, even in those times where you're like, why am I doing this? Sometimes here recently, I had one of those days, where it's like, why am I doing this? This is a lot of extra work. It's a lot of extra time. But I would just say, have faith. And, it all doesn't happen at once. So just keep working at it. And you'll get to where you want to be, I guess, would be what I would tell myself. There's a lot of other things too. I would tell myself, don't do this, don't do that. But I would say have faith and just keep working at it little bits by little bits. And eventually it'll pay off big, would be kind of what I would tell myself if I could go back to year one.
Well, I think that's good advice for anybody. Have faith is hard to do, but very important in farming. Well, I just really appreciate you being willing to share what you're doing and how the journey has been for you so far. I think people really enjoy seeing what other beginning farmers are doing. So where can they follow along with your story and learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, my Instagram handle and I do have a YouTube channel. I'm kind of just getting started with that. There's a little bit of, videoing yourself. There's a little weirdness that comes along with that, and you don't know exactly what to share. But you can follow along on my Instagram and my YouTube channel that are exclusively farming content. And that's at Brenna Beard Farms. And I also have a TikTok, which that is life, my daily life. So you'll get a little sprinkle of everything and farming mixed in. You might see my guest appearance, which is my dad. And that is at Brenna Beard. And then those would kind of encompass what I'm doing on the farm. So if you want to follow along, I would suggest to go to any of those handles.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
If you've enjoyed spending time with us today, please take a moment to review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or join the conversation on social media. Do you have a topic you would like to discuss or know someone with a story to share? Apply to be a guest on the podcast at farmingonpurpose.com. You can follow the host of Farming on Purpose, Lexi, on your favorite social media platforms for more content by searching for Farming on Purpose. And remember, if you look around your table and aren't inspired by the people there, it's time to find a new seat.